Hi students, welcome back. Let us start your chapter 6, that is the continuation of your previous chapter, the 100 dresses. So this is the part 2, the 100 dresses part 2. Alright, let's once again look at the author. Eleanor Estes was an American children's author and a children's librarian, and one of her books, that is Ginger Pie, also got the Newbery Medal. All right, now let's look at the theme of this particular part of your story. The story carries a message about the racial discrimination against the Polish in America. At the same time, it also talks about the act of forgiving somebody's mistakes. So this, story, the second part talks about the racial discrimination and the act of forgiving. So basically, the Polish people in America were really, sort of racially discriminated against, and that is why this story plays a very important role in confronting that. While the people, now let's continue. So, if you remember, in the end, what basically happened was everybody was told that Vanda is the winner, and Peggy and Mary both were very surprised, and everybody was very surprised and astounded by how beautiful Vanda's paintings were. While the class was circling the room, the monitor from the principal office brought Miss Mason a note. So, while people were still looking at the paintings, the monitor of the class, they bought a note from the principal's office for the teacher, Miss Mason. Miss Mason read it several times and studied it thoughtfully for a while. Then she clapped her hands. So basically, Miss Mason, she studied the note, she looked carefully at it, and then she thought of sharing the note with the class. Attention class, everyone back to the seat. So she told everybody to go back to their seats. When the shuffling of the feet had stopped and the room was still and quiet, Miss Mason said, I have a letter from Amanda's father that I want to read to you. Miss Mason stood there a moment and the silence in the room grew tense and expectant. So basically, what was the letter that the monitor had brought from the principal's office? It was a letter from Vanda's father for the teacher. So they had brought it for Miss Mason. So Miss Mason said that she wants to read out the letter to the whole of the class. So the whole of the class was tense and expectant and waiting for her to read the letter. The teacher adjusted her glasses slowly and deliberately. The manner indicated that what was coming from this letter from Vanda's father was a matter of great importance. So the teacher, before reading out, she basically, adjusted her specs and everything. And this was a sort of indication that the letter that was from Vanda's father was a very important letter. Everybody listened closely as Miss Mason read the brief note. Dear teacher, my Wanda will not come to your school anymore. Jake also, now we move away to big city. No more Holopalic, no more. Why? Ask why funny name. Plenty of funny names in the big city, yours truly, Jan Petronsky. So this is such a heartfelt letter from her father if you read it. Her father was very troubled that Wanda and her son and her brother, they were remaining very troubled in the school or in the class. Everybody was teasing her. So she had written the letter that, my Wanda, that he had written a letter to the teacher that Wanda will not be coming to the school, neither her brother Jake. He said that now they are moving away to the big city. And nobody would sort of tease them about their Polish ascent. Nobody would racially discriminate against them, against that. And not only that, people would also not keep making fun of Vanda's name. Because when you're in a big city, there are a lot of big names. And it was signed by Vanda's father, Jan Petronsky. A deep silence met the reading of this letter. Miss Mason took off her glasses, blew on them, and wiped them on her soft white handkerchief. Then she put them on again and looked at the class and she spoke. Her voice was very low. So, the teacher was very sad. She was very disturbed, after reading the letter because she felt like she, as a student, had not sort of she as a teacher had not, made the students aware about this particular matter and how much they were hurting Wanda by their stupid behavior. So what she did, she wiped off her glasses and put them away and then started talking to the class in a low voice. I'm sure that none of the boys and girls in room 13 would purposely and deliberately hurt anyone's feelings because his or her name happened to be a long, unfamiliar one. So basically, here now the teacher says that, I'm very sure that nobody would purposely or deliberately hurt anybody's feelings because they have a different name or long, unfamiliar name, especially in my class. I prefer to think that what was said in thoughtlessness. I know that all of you feel the way I do. And that is a very unfortunate thing to happen. Unfortunate and sad both. And I want you all to think about it. So she says that, I'm sort of forgiving all of the students just because of the fact that, I feel like whatever they did or whatever they said to Wanda, they said in a very thoughtless way. They did not think before putting their words in front of Wanda. And she said that it was a very sad and unfortunate thing to happen, and she wanted all the students to sort of think about it. The first period was a study period. Maddie tried to prepare for her lessons, but she could not put her mind on work. She had a very sick feeling in the bottom of her stomach. So, whenever you do something wrong, your gut instinct tells you that you're doing it wrong. And, if it affects somebody else, your wrongdoings, you have a feeling in your stomach that, you did it wrong. So, the first period was a study period. And, Maddie was trying to prepare for her lessons, but she had the same, sick feeling in her stomach and she could not at all focus. True, she had not enjoyed listening to Peggy ask how many dresses she had in her closet, but she had said nothing. So she was feeling very, very bad that, yes, she did not like Peggy talking to Wanda that way. But the point was she never stopped Peggy. She never stopped Peggy from speaking to Wanda like that. She had stood by silently and was just as bad as what Peggy had done. Worse, she was a coward. So, now she comes and realizes that, somewhere or the other, by not standing up for Wanda, by not standing up for and telling Peggy that she was doing wrong things, she was just as bad as Peggy. In fact, she was even worse because she was a coward. She couldn't even stand up. At least Peggy hadn't considered that they were being mean, but she, Maddie, had thought that they were doing wrong. So here Maddie, thinks to herself that, at least Peggy was unaware, Peggy was just doing it for fun. But I had actually, Maddie had actually realized that they were being wrong. Then why couldn't she stop Peggy? She could have put herself in Wanda's shoes. Goodness, wasn't there anything she could do? So, then Maddie talks about how she could have put herself into Wanda's shoes and, sort of stopped Peggy. But now there was nothing she could do. If only she could tell Wanda she hadn't meant to hurt her feelings. She turned around and stole a glance at Peggy, but Peggy did not look up. So Peggy was so ashamed that she couldn't even, look at people or meet with their eyes. And Maddie, on the other hand, she wanted to tell Wanda that she did not want to sort of hurt her feelings. Maybe she had not yet moved away. Maybe Peggy would climb the heights with her and they could tell Wanda that she had won the contest, that they thought they were smart. She was smart and the 100 dresses were beautiful. So basically, Maddie was wondering whether Peggy had yet not moved away, because if she had not yet moved away, they could just go and tell Peggy and Maddie could go and tell Wanda that how, they were so happy that she had won the drawing contest and they thought that she was very, very smart and they really liked her 100 dresses. She seemed to be studying hard. Peggy, on the other hand, Peggy was acting as if, she was studying very hard and she would not look up from the book. Well, whether Peggy felt badly or not, Maddie had to do something. She had to find Wanda Petronsky. So, now Maddie was like, I don't care whether Peggy's with me or anything. I'm going to go and apologize to Wanda because I have done wrong. Now, let's look at some key terms. Listen closely means listen with attention. What did Mr. Petronsky's letter say? So Mr. Petronsky, or Jan Petronsky, Vanda's father, said that he was very, very sad that his daughter was being racially discriminated because of them being Polish. Her name was being made fun of, and not only that, their Polish descent was also being ridiculed by the children in the school. Therefore, they had taken the decision of not sending Wanda to the school and moving away to a bigger place. Is Miss Mason angry with the class, or is she unhappy and upset? So Miss Mason is not really angry with the class, because somewhere or the other she knows that whatever has happened because the children did not put thought into their words. She is just very unhappy and upset because she never expected the children of her class to do such a behavior. How does Maddie feel after listening to the note from Vanda's father? So Maddie felt really, really, really bad. She felt very, very sad. She was also disturbed. She couldn't focus on her studies. Not only that, she felt like a coward for not standing up for Wanda whenever Peggy was doing wrong. Now, what does Maddie want to do? Maddie actually wants to go and meet Wanda Petronsky, find her, apologize to her for being so mean, and not only that, she wants to tell Wanda Petronsky that everybody thinks that she's very smart and that she has won the art contest. Now, the school, let's move ahead with the chapter. When the school was dismissed in the afternoon, Peggy said with pretended casualness, "Hey, let's go and see if that kid has left the town or not." So Peggy had the same idea. Maddie glowed. Peg was really alright. So, after the school got over, Peggy was also very disturbed, but she was trying to pretend or behave in a casual way. So casually she said that, let's see if Wanda has left the town or not. Now, Maddie was very happy. Maddie was very happy that at least, Peggy had the same idea as Maggie, and both of them wanted to apologize. The two girls hurried out of the building up the street towards Bergen Street, the part of the town that wore such a forbidding air on this kind of a November afternoon, drizzly, damp, and dismal. So both of the girls, they, left the school and they sort of hurried out of the school and went towards Bergen Heights. So Bergen Heights was a very, very, sad part of the town. It was not a very place where good or rich people lived. So, in the November afternoon, there was a little bit of rain and everything. So the weather there was drizzly, damp, and dismal. Well, at last, Peggy said gruffly, "I never did call her foreigner or make fun of her name. I never thought she had the sense to know we were making fun of her anyway. I thought she was too dumb. And gee, look how she can draw." So Peggy at this point, she was not really very apologetic. She was not trying to acknowledge her mistake. She was just sort of putting up excuses that, "Oh, I never called her a foreigner, made fun of her name. And, I didn't know that she could make out that we were making fun of her. And I thought she was too dumb and everything." Maddie could say nothing. At this point, Maddie was just too tired of Peggy. She was like, this girl isn't going to change. All she hoped was they could find Wanda. She wanted to tell her that they were sorry they had picked up on her and how wonderful the whole school she thought she was. And please not to move away and everybody would be nice. So basically, Maddie at this point, she had thought of a lot of things to say to Wanda. She wanted to tell her, Wanda, that, they would not pick up on her or make fun of her. And the whole school thought that, Wanda was very great and everybody would be nice to her and she should not move away. She and Peggy would not fight anybody who was not nice. So, Maddie further wanted to tell Wanda that Peggy and Maddie would literally fight anybody who would not be nice to Wanda. The two girls hurried on. They hoped to get to the top of the hill before dark. "I think that's where the Petronsky live." Maddie pointed to a white house. Wisps of old glass stuck up here and there along the pathway like thin kittens. So, Maddie has sort of knew which house Wanda Petronsky lived in. So she pointed towards a little white house, which was a little unkempt. She said that that's where the Petronskys live in. The house and its vast little yard looked shabby but clean. It reminded Maddie of Wanda's one dress, her faded cotton blue dress, shabby but clean. This was not a sign of life about a house. So basically, the point was that the house wasn't that lavish, exquisite, but it looked clean. And it reminded Maddie of the dress that Wanda used to wear, the blue and shabby one that was faded but clean. However, the point was both Peggy and Maddie could not see any life in the house. Peggy knocked firmly on the door, but there was no answer. She and Maddie went around to the backyard and knocked there. Still, there was no answer. So basically, the point was, it looked as if there was nobody in the house. So Peggy went and knocked upon the house, but she couldn't, get an answer. They went around the house also, but they couldn't still see anybody answer. There was no doubt about it. The Petronskins were gone. How could they ever make amends? They turned slowly and made their way back down the hill. Well, anyway, she's gone now, so what can we do? Peggy said. So basically, the Petronskis had actually gone. And Peggy and Maddie were both very sad that there was no way they could make amends now. And Peggy sort of asked Maddie, now she's gone, what can we do? Besides, when I was asking her about all her dresses, she was probably getting good ideas for her drawings. She might not even have won the contest otherwise. So, Peggy was such a petty girl. She was such a petty girl that, somewhere or the other, she was not acknowledging her mistake. And at this point, she had the audacity to tell Maddie that, whenever I used to ask her about the dresses, maybe she got an idea about the dresses from there only. That's how in the, contest she drew 100 dresses. Maggie turned this idea carefully over her head. For if there was anything in it, she could not have to feel badly. So, Maddie sort of considered this idea that was this actually even possible? But that night, she could not get to sleep. She thought about Vanda and her faded blue dress and the little house she had lived in. So basically, that night, Maddie, she could not sleep. She was just thinking completely and fully about Vanda, a faded blue house, the faded blue dress, and the little blue white house she lived in. She thought of glowing pictures those 100 dresses made, all lined up in the classroom. At least Maddie sat up in bed, pressed her forehead tight in her hands, and really thought. So, somewhere or the other, Maddie was so sad and so worried that, she thought about all the pictures that Vanda drew. And then she sat up in her bed, put her head in her hands like this, and she just thought that what could she do? This was the hardest thinking she had ever done. After a long time, she reached an important conclusion. She was never going to stand by and say nothing again. So, Mary thought a lot. She considered a lot of things, and after a long time, she just had a thinking. She just started believing that she's not going to remain a coward and not sort of stand up for anything wrong that's being said. If she ever heard anybody picking up on someone because they were funny looking or because they had strange names, she'd speak up. So, Maddie, she was so good that she thought that now, whenever I see, somebody picking up or somebody making fun or ridiculing somebody because they were not good looking or because they had strange names, she would speak up and she would attack the person who was making fun. Even if it meant losing Peggy's friendship, So Maddie here, she was also, ready to break up her friendship with Peggy. She had no way of making things right with Vanda, but from now on, she would never make anybody else that unhappy again. So, somewhere or the other, she actually had no way to, sort of make up things with Vanda, but now she do not want anybody else to be unhappy again. Moving on, let's see what happened afterwards. First, let's look at some key terms. Picking on someone basically means treating somebody unkindly or criticizing them unfairly. Damp and dismal means wet and sad and expressing a state of hopelessness. What excuses does Peggy think up of her behavior? Why? So Peggy as a person is somebody who would not acknowledge her mistakes, okay? She's a very petty girl, and the excuses that she makes for her behavior is just that, oh, I did not really ridicule her, I did not make fun of her descent or the fact that she was Polish, I never made fun of her name. And most of the times I did not even know that Vanda would be intelligent enough to make out that we were actually making fun of her. Not only that, she went on to say that, Vanda had got the dresses of making a, Vanda had got the idea of making 100 dresses only after Peggy had asked her the question of dresses. What are Maddie's thoughts as they go to Bergen Heights? So Maddie just wants to meet Vanda once and tell her that, they are very, very sorry for everything that they've done and they would never ever make fun of her. And everybody at the school thinks that Vanda is very smart. Everybody is very proud of her for winning the art contest. And she also wants to tell that she would never ever allow anybody to make fun of Vanda. And in fact, Peggy and Maddie would actually stand up for Vanda if anybody ever makes fun of her. She also wants to tell Vanda to not shift away and come back to school. Why does Vanda's house remind Maddie of Vanda's blue dress? So Vanda's house was a little white house in Bergen Heights that was a little shabby, but it was very, very clean. Similarly, Vanda's dress, the blue dress she used to wear, it was faded and shabby, but it was always clean. What does Maddie think about? What important decision does she come to? So Maddie thinks a lot about a lot of things. But one of the very important things she sort of thinks is that, now she will stand up and put her thoughts forward and not remain quiet. Not only that, she would stand up even if it meant to lose Peggy's friendship. She would not allow anybody to make fun of anybody if they were fun looking and had a funny name or in general. On Saturday, Maddie spent the afternoon with Peggy. They were writing a letter to Wanda Petronsky. It was just a friendly letter telling about the contest and telling Wanda that she would win. So basically then, they thought about writing a letter to Wanda, Peggy and Maddie both. They were writing a friendly letter about how, Wanda had won a contest. They told her how pretty her drawings were. And they asked her if she liked where she was living and if she liked her new teacher. So basically, they were trying to make a friendly letter. So they, told her that the drawings are very beautiful and whether Wanda liked where she had now shifted to and whether she liked her new teacher. They had meant to say sorry, but it ended up with their just writing a friendly letter, the kind they would have written to any good friends and signed it with a lot of X's for love. They mailed it to the They mailed the letter to Bergen Heights, writing please forward on the envelope. So basically, they had actually meant to write a sorry letter, but they ended up writing a friendly letter, just like anybody writes to their friends, but a lot of X's for love. So they mailed it to Bergen Heights, writing please forward it on the envelope. Days passed, and there was no answer. The letter did not come back. So maybe Wanda had received it. Perhaps she was so hurt and angry that she was not going to answer. You could not blame her. Weeks went by and still Wanda did not answer. So basically, days passed by and, there was no answer at all. Okay. And so, but the point was the letter also did not get returned to either Peggy or Maddie. So the point was they knew that Wanda had received the letter. So, now Maddie thought that maybe, Wanda was so angry and so hurt that she did not write back. Peggy had begun to forget the whole business and Maddie put herself to sleep at night, making speeches about Wanda, defending her from a great crowd of girls who were trying to tease her with how many dresses have you got. So, somewhere or the other, time started moving forward and Peggy, sort of the girl she was, she tried to forget the whole ordeal. But Maddie, on the other hand, every night she used to go to sleep by just making speeches about how she was defending Wanda from the girls. And before Wanda could press her lips together in a tight line the way she did before answering, Maddie would cry out, stop, and then everybody would feel ashamed the way she used to feel. So basically, Maddie used to think that, if Wanda was there and if anybody tried to tease her again, she would just call out loudly, stop, so that everybody who was making fun of her would feel ashamed. Now it was Christmas time and there was snow on the ground, Christmas bells, and a small tree decorated the classroom. On the last day of school before the holidays, the teacher showed the class a letter she had received this morning. You remember Vanda Petronsky, the gifted little artist who won the drawing contest? So basically, now a lot of time passed away, and it was Christmas time. And the classroom was decorated with Christmas bells and a small tree. And on the last day of school, before the holidays, the teacher received a letter, on the morning from Vanda Petronsky. Well, she's written me, and I'm glad to know where she lives because now I can send her the medal, but I want the reader to read the letter with you. The class sat up with a sudden interest and listened intently. So basically, now the teacher said that she was very happy that she now knew where Vanda Petronsky lived so that now she could send her the medal. And the teacher further said that she wants to read out the letter to everybody. So everybody was very interested and listened. Dear Miss Mason, how are you in room 13? Please tell the girlies they can keep those 100 dresses because in my new house, I have 100 new ones all lined up in my closet. So, Vanda had written a very friendly letter and she had written that, I hope everybody there is all right. She further said that, everybody can keep the 100 drawings of the dress that I made because now I have made 100 new more and they're all lined up in my closet. I'd like that girl Peggy to have the drawing of the green dress with the red trimming and her friend Maddie to have the blue one. For Christmas, I miss that school and my new teacher does not equalize with you. Merry Christmas to you and everybody. Yours truly, Vanda Petronsky. So basically, Vanda here is just writing that she wants Peggy to have the green dress, the red drawing of the green dress with the red trimming, and she wanted Maggie to have the blue one. Then she further went on to say that, I miss my old school and the teacher here in my new school does not equalize with you. Then she ended the letter by saying Merry Christmas to everybody. On the way home from school, Maddie and Peggy held their drawings very carefully. All the houses had wreaths and hollies in their flower. Outside the grocery store, hundreds of Christmas trees were stacked and in the window, candy peppermint sticks and corn coopers of shiny transparent paper were strung. So as Maddie and Peggy were walking back from school holding the drawings very carefully, they saw that the Christmas decorations were in full swing, Christmas trees were there, candy peppermint sticks were there, corn coopers were there, and everything was very beautiful. The air smelled like Christmas and light shining reflected different colors on the snow. So basically everything was, whenever there's a festival, there's a mood. So, the mood was full Christmassy and there was light shining everywhere and reflecting on the snow. Boy, said Peggy, this shows that she really likes us. It shows that she got our letter and this is the way of saying that everything's all right and that's it. So, Peggy sort of just wondered and said to Mary, this shows how good of a girl Vanda was. She really liked us even after everything that we did to her. This also shows that she got her letter, and she's saying that everything is all right. I hope so, Mary said sadly. She felt sad because she could never see the tight-lipped polished girl again, and she ever couldn't really make things right between them. She went home and she pinned her drawing over a torn place in the pink flowered wallpaper in the bedroom. So, Maddie, on the other hand, she was a little disturbed because she wanted to sort of see Vanda again and make things okay in between them in real life and not between letters. But, she sadly just went home and pinned the drawing on her wallpaper. The shabby room came alive from the brilliancy of the colors. Maddie sat down on her bed and looked at the drawing. She had stood by and said nothing. But Vanda had been nice to her. Anyway, tears blurred her eyes and she gazed at the long time for the picture. So, Maddie's room was not very beautiful, but when she put in the drawing, it was so beautiful and so brilliant that it started looking very pretty. She just stood by, Maddie just looked at the drawing and just wondered, she had never really stood up for Vanda. But Wanda was still so nice to her that she gave her the drawing. Then there were tears in her eyes and she gazed for a long time at the picture. Then hastily she rubbed her eyes and studied it intently. The colors in the dress were so vivid that she had scarcely noticed the face and a head of the drawing. But it looked like her, Maddie. It really looked like her own mouth. Why? It looked like her own self. So now as she was looking at the picture, she suddenly noticed that, oh my God, let alone the dress. The face of the picture was so similar to Maddie that actually looked like Maddie was standing in that dress. Wanda had really drawn this for her. Excitedly, she ran over to Peggy's. Peg, she said, let me see your picture. What's the matter? Peggy said as they clattered up to her room where Wanda's drawing was lying face down on the bed. Maddie carefully raised it. So basically, Peggy had just kept the drawing like this only with no care. But when Maddie asked to see it, both of them looked at it. Look, she drew you. That's you. And the face and the head of the picture didn't look like Peggy. What did I say? Said Peggy. She must have really liked us anyway. So, Peggy said that, oh my God, maybe she really liked us. That's why she drew us. Yes, she must have, agreed Maddie, and she blinked away the tears that came every time she thought of Wanda standing alone in that sunny spot in the schoolyard, looking stolidly over the group of laughing girls after she had walked off, after she had said, sure, 100 of them all lined up. So, somewhere or the other, Maddie was still so sad because she'd been so bad to Wanda. Every time they used to laugh at her, Wanda just used to go to a particular spot in the room, in the yard, and just stand alone while other people would laugh over her. Now, let's look at some key terms. Cornucopias, decorative containers, usually full of fruits and flowers. What did the girls write to Wanda? The girls basically wrote a friendly letter to Wanda describing the situation at school, and they also asked her about her well-being. Did they get a reply? Who was more anxious for a reply, Peggy or Maddie? How do you know? So they did not get a reply. Peggy and Maddie, among both of them, Maddie was the girl who was more anxious for a reply because she had written the letter with the whole heart and she actually wanted to communicate with Wanda. How did the girls know that Wanda liked them? Even though they had teased her. So even though they had been very bad to Wanda and they had teased her, they knew that Wanda was a good girl at heart and that she had actually liked them because she actually drew not only the dresses but also their faces on the drawings. Okay, now let's see. Question 1. So all of these are big answer questions. Why do you think Wanda's family moved to a different city? Do you think there was going to be a different for their family? So basically, Wanda's family moved away from the different city because they were being racially discriminated against. Wanda was not feeling good in the class, in the school. She was making fun of. So they actually wanted to give her more exposure and not make her feel bad. So they moved away to the big city wherein there were a lot of people from different identities, and so that they could not be racially discriminated or made fun of. So question 2. Maddie thought that her silence was as bad as Peggy's teasing. Was she right? Yes, Maddie was right, because being a coward is as bad as being a wrong person, because you have to start standing up for anything that's being wrong and tell the person who's doing the wrong things that you are wrong. That is why Maddie's silence was as bad as Peggy's teasing. What important decision did Maddie make? Why did she have to think so hard to do so? So the important decision that Maddie made was to not ever keep quiet, but to stand up if something wrong was happening to everybody. She had to really think hard to, take this decision, because she realized if she started doing this, she would also lose a few of her important friendships, but she was okay with losing them. Question 5. Why do you think Wanda gave Maddie and Peggy the drawings of the dresses? Why are they surprised? So Wanda actually gave Maddie and Peggy the drawings of the dresses because she had drew their faces upon those two dresses. They are surprised because they can't believe that after everything that they had done to Wanda, after they had been so bad to her, she was actually so sweet that she had given them the dresses. Question 6. Do you think Vanda really thought that the girls were teasing her? Why or why not? Vanda was very aware that, she was being teased by the girls and she was being made fun of, because somewhere or the other she was not as dumb as the girls thought she was. So yeah. Now let's do a quick revision. Miss Pinkston reads a letter to the class written by Vanda's father, Mr. Petronsky, informing that the Petronsky family has moved to a larger city to avoid the bully that they had faced. So basically, Miss Pinkston reads the letter that tells that they have moved away. Peggy and Maddie may feel guilty and wonder if their game of asking Wanda about her dresses had anything to do with it. So Peggy and Maddie, both of them, they felt guilty and wondered if their game they used to play with Wanda had anything to do with this moving out. Maddie is unable to forgive herself, for she never stopped Peggy from making fun of Wanda. She often imagines that she could have stopped this from happening. Maggie and Peggy go to Morgan Heights to see if Wanda was there, but she had already left, so they write her a letter wishing best and applauding her drawing. So basically, they go and check, but she's not there. They've already moved out. So they write her a letter of goodwill, wishing her the best and applauding her for her very beautiful drawings. Wanda writes Miss Mason a note during Christmas season asking her to give her drawings to Peggy and Maddie. The gift from Wanda is not just the drawing itself, but the act of forgiveness, which is one of the central themes of the story. So, in a way, when Wanda just asks Miss Mason to give the drawings of the dresses to Peggy and Maddie, what we also see here is we have to remember that, we have to start forgiving people. So, yeah, that is one of the main and the central themes of the story. And with this part of your chapter comes to an end. I hope to see you in the next chapter, and I hope you understood everything. Bye.